that only to the garland. It's easier to do. So then, is there a garland for Radharani now? Did anyone bring any kind of a garland for her?
Yeah, that is correct.
That doesn't stain the dress.
If it gets really gummed in there, then it can. I read in one scripture where it mentions that when you put the garland on Radharani, you should touch it to his feet first. Touch it to his feet, and then she can wear his prasadi mala, which she likes. As far as the mala are concerned, in Vrindavan, the Matajis especially, they like to make very opulent mala for Radharani, more opulent than for Krishna. But sometimes it's a little too heavy. Sometimes it has a tendency to cover up too much of her form. But it is opulent and it's nice, and that's the expression of their desire to glorify Radharani, which is natural. Especially in Vrindavan. Vrindavan is Radharani's home, So she's the queen of Vrindavan, and therefore there's a special place in our heart for Radharani in Vrindavan. But the fact of the matter is that sometimes a little thinner garland or garlands, which it depends on how it can be organized. See how the garland's falling to the side like this? So that has to be avoided. Sometimes you can, depending on if you want to swing the garland, then you can pin one side and leave the other side like that. You can adjust things in such a way as to make it look like everything is flowing in one way or another. But for this time, we're just going to, because it's such a short garland anyway. But sometimes I like to swing the garland using a string, just like we did for Shamsundar. And even if there's a locket on the end, double or triple locket on the end, then when we swing it to the side, you can use strings to do that. Or sometimes if you don't swing it very dramatically, then swinging it a little way, then you can even pin it to a dress if it doesn't pull the dress and make the form of the dress disturbed. If it pulls the dress, then it's better to use strings, even if the string cuts across the cloth. But for now, we'll just do it this way. And you have to, I don't know if you need to get up to see this, but because her breasts are probably the most you can say sensitive, so you definitely don't want to touch her with your hand. Don't even come close. So there's a way to do it. You have to catch this side is a little having to come close. So you catch it, and then even if you have to come close, a little closer, but you don't touch her. Just catch the very outside, and then push the pin through and up like this. The idea is when then you push it into a flower so that it's solidly established. The idea is that the head of the pin, although we pray that it doesn't give her too much discomforture, but the head of the pin will rest on her breast, and disallow the garland to swing out. You see? Sometimes you need, like, you may need to have a little more. Like that. And the pin shouldn't be seen from the front. The same thing from this side. So there's more leverage. Or something. So it's better to put the earrings on first. Then what's next? Nose ring. Don't forget the nose ring. No, don't forget Radharani wears the nose ring. Even sometimes I'll put the nose ring immediately after I put the ankle bracelets before I even do anything else, just so that I don't forget. And another point, although I heard that you said something about the rouge on the cheeks of Radharani, but we could have a private discussion about that. But I'd just like to mention that there is Shastric evidence in Krishna book, in 2 chapters, there's Shastric evidence where the gopis are wearing kumkum on their cheeks. It describes how it is that just like the saffron pollen from the lotus flower beautifies the lotus flower, so in the same way, the kumkum that is applied to the cheeks of the gopis beautifies their faces. So there is evidence that in the Vedic culture, in the holistic culture of Braja, at least, not only the younger gopis, but even the older gopis are putting kumkum on their faces. And not only on the faces, on other parts of the body, like the breast and things like that. The reason why we don't put it on the breast is because it'll stain the cloth. You know, but...
Also eyeshadow.
Yeah, eyeshadow. It may be, I'm not an expert, I usually don't put eyeshadow on. But sometimes I've seen, like Rambhadra, he would sometimes put some kind of glittery type of eyeshadow over Radharani. It can be done. But the
kajal scripture.
Yeah, kajal is there, but usually the kajal is painted on the deity already anyway. So. But if you can put eyeshadow, the main thing is you don't want her face to start looking heavy. You know, because sometimes you start to overdo things just because we're in the decoration mode, you know. And then the beauty of the deity's face, the sweetness of the deity's face becomes obliterated, you know, by all of our decorations. So it's better, especially on Radharani's face, it's better to think lighter. On Shyam's face you can think a little heavier. But even on Shyam's face, the painting of his face shouldn't be so heavy. Sometimes we see, like how at Radha Damodar Mandir, if you've seen at Radha Damodar Mandir, how they paint chakras and things on the cheeks. They do it nicely, and sometimes it looks good. It looks sometimes a little, what is the word I'm looking for? Quaint, you know, the way, because sometimes, you know, and we take it, but our standard is a little different than the standards of most of the deities in the world. In Vrindavan, their dressing is not so, let's say, so elaborate, and their painting of the face is generally more elaborate. But sometimes, you know, one chakra will be up a little bit, and the other chakra will be down. You know, they didn't get it square on. You know, so then I usually just say that, okay, anyway, you know, Radha Damodar ki jai, like that. But when I paint the deity's face, I prefer to go a little lighter. And especially in the winter time, the deity's face should be painted as little as possible. Because especially if you're in a temple like in Vrindavan, and I imagine Mayapur also, there's no heat, really. we have like little heat convectors or heat, the reflecting type of infrared heaters, for the deity. But when the door is open, there's a cold blast coming in, and we've just finished painting the deities, and they get cold. So you also have to think in these terms, like in the winter time, instead of lavishing his lotus feet with tulsi and chandan, it's better to you can offer, but set it a little to the side, and so that it's like barely touching one of his toes or something like that. To think, that we don't want him to get unnecessarily cold. In the winter time, there's one letter where Srila Prabhupada is telling, I think it was to go to Sri Govinda, perhaps in Detroit. I think Govinda was the temple president in Detroit. I don't know whether it was directly to him or to whom, but I remember the basic gist of the letter was that it is not at all good that the deities do not have warm clothes for the winter. Prabhupada was saying that. Although in some places he says that the deity is not like us, who suffers from the material condition, but in other places he would say in such a way as to actually inspire what is called Atmavat Seva. Atmavat Seva of the deity means Atmavat, just like this is saying Atmavan Manite Jagat, that you see the world in terms of the way you experience things. So in the same way, Atmavat Seva means that you will take into consideration that if I'm feeling cold, then maybe Krishna's feeling cold. So Krishna first, me second, like that. So then you want to dress the deity with a nice, kachi wool chadar, to make him feel warmer. Or you might even go lighter on the flowers. There are certain flowers which are, these flowers are nice for winter time. They're not so cold. But then that depends on availability as well. You see? So you do have to be thoughtful. When you dress the deity, you have to be thoughtful about the deity's comfort. Like that. There are like outfits which are like heavy velvet outfits, But in the summertime, when it's blistering hot, you're not going to want to put a really heavy velvet. And sometimes they make up a schedule. In the temples, they'll make up a schedule just because they have X number of dresses. And without thinking of the actual nature of the dress that they're putting on, they'll schedule a dress which is actually quite a winter outfit, for the summer. So that's not so good. It's better if we can organize in such a way that lighter outfits and cooling colors even. You can even think in terms of cooling colors, like white, bluish. They're cool colors and they're warm colors. So that all actually affect your mind. So if the deities are wearing a warm color, then you can make you think that you're at least psychologically, making them warmer, feel warmer, like that. It's mentioned in Hari Bhakti Vilas that if you have fire and your deity doesn't have fire, then you get sinful reactions. So it's not like, in our big fat office we have nice, fireplace or nice heater, and then the deities are left on the altar with no heater. Or that we're bundling up nicely, with chadars and caps and everything. But the deity is left in some kind of skinny cloth without having any chadar. And painting his face without consideration of the circumstances. So we have to be thoughtful, in the way that we dress the deity, according to season. The kind of oil that you use. This is another point, that this is not actually meant for the deity dressing seminar, perhaps, but just to illustrate the point, as far as our consciousness behind what we're doing. Ultimately, why are we doing this? Can anyone say why we're dressing the deities? Why are we learning how to dress the deities? develop a relationship beyond, prema. The idea is that this service, of course, no service in Kali Yuga is complete without performing Nam Sankirtan. So Nam Sankirtan has to be done just like we chanted a little before we started, to help make the endeavor successful. So, but still, all of our services, including the deity dressing, this is meant to help augment our natural heart's flow toward Krishna in a loving disposition. And loving means service. And service means according to what is pleasing to Krishna. Selfless service.
Can you put eyelashes on?
If we've done it before, but then it should. There are a couple different schools of thought. One is that the face of the deity should not change, but should not change in the sense that if you start putting eyelashes on, then you should make that the standard. And the deity should always have eyelashes. But the problem with eyelashes generally that I've seen is that there's a tendency, they're made according to the size of the human eye. And sometimes the deity's eye is actually more elongated than the human eye. So then you end up with an eyelash that doesn't actually cover the rim of the eye. Or you have to fudge it by putting another piece of an eyelash, and then that can start to look a little crunky. Sometimes, just to simplify things, it's better to just allow the deity to manifest his eyelashes in your mind. But it's not altogether wrong. At least as far as I know. Those are earrings.
If you put a nose ring and take a chain on this, so how do you do it?
It goes above. Yeah. You see I'm doing something wrong? I didn't put on a nose ring. Okay? And I'm already picking this up. As if I'm going to put this on. It's a total hassle to put the nose ring on after you put her hair on. A total hassle. So, nose ring. Where's the nose ring?
I does not.
Do we have a nose ring? We can use maybe this thing. But this doesn't give us an opportunity to show the chain, unless we can kind of make a
Also, how
chain.
do we take it to Subhadra?
It's basically the same thing. I don't know if she has an ear on her. You put earrings so it should go above. It goes, as far as I understand, it comes like this, goes down a little bit. You don't want to just pull it straight across. Remember what we were talking about, rounding things so that when you're looking at from the darshan mandap, you'll see that it's dangling a little. It's looking around. Whereas it may look from this angle, it may look like it's dangling some, but when you get down here, it looks like it's going straight across. Should be having a round, a little loose. Did you find any earrings? I mean, those rings? No. And especially, remember, the photo tells no lies. So, and especially, many devotees like to take photos of the deities, and then the photos get around, or else maybe you want to make a photo for your calendar in your temple or whatever, So, the face is the most important part of the deity in the sense that although the lotus feet the most important part from one perspective, but the face is what's going to be seen by everyone, and people are going to immediately, not immediately, but ultimately, they're going to home in on the beauty of their faces. So if they, and many times snapshots are taken of the deities' faces, right? So what's going to happen if you put the nose ring on and there's a big old hunk of blue tack, So remember, blue tack, it looks ridiculous. I've seen it so many times. Devotees are not conscious of the blue tack. They'll put the tika, the mung tika, will have a big wad of blue tack, and the hair gets so gummed up with blue tack, and they don't bother. Like if there's blue tack here, see like the blue tack. You see the blue tack?
Yeah.
So if it gets more and more, then before you put the mung tika on, unless it's so much that you have to cut it out with a pair of scissors, before you put the mung tika on, you have to press it together so that it makes it as small as possible. So that it actually fits behind the mung tika. So I don't think we're gonna try to simulate a chain, but it should be. See, there's no chain; it'll actually work. Maybe this one.
The chain across her forehead is a mantika?
It's called mung tika, or tika for sure. Is that D.P. Govinda Maharaj doing kirtan?
Sounds nice.
These things nice. Those are beautiful girls. This gets hidden. This is what's called fudgetology.
Amazing to do it now.
I'm a fudgetologist from here. Consider it simulated. Okay, next is the hair. What time is it?
5:45.
Where's Karma?
I thought it was coming at 4 o'clock.
Okay, here the kuchi is on the it's on the right side, but another thing, and don't forget the bindi. She has a bindi, but most deities don't have a painted bindi. So we put a bindi. And the bindi shouldn't be too high. Like, you see how it is here? This is correct. But sometimes I've seen devotees, they'll put it like in the middle of her forehead. Just like your bindi is down closer to between the eyebrows, right?
So when do you put the coffee cup? When do you put the coffee cup?
After.
When you finish with the hair?
Yeah, after everything. And the thing about hair is you need an Achman cut.
There's one on the pulse in that.
With some water.
The lot of there's got water in it.
When we buy weeks, we don't buy natural hair.
Hmm?
We buy hair.
Do it like natural hair?
Yeah.
Human hair? Well, you don't know who it came from. It's probably better to get the synthetic hair. So you have to wet your hair a little bit. In the wintertime, you don't want to do it more. Do it as little as possible. But see all the frizzies here? So in order to get the tika on nicely, then you just smooth it with your wet palms, like that. You don't want her ears to be showing so much. On Krishna, though, the best, at least the way I was always instructed in my personal taste, I also feel it to be true, that the hair is best when it's going behind the ear. And then the turban comes, and it's revealing his ear is nice. But on Radharani, the ear is mostly covered. Now, do we have something for the tika? Yeah? Maybe I can fudge this too. Is there anything else? I can use this as it comes apart. I'll just make it simple. Oh, here's the one. Hari.
So I come to philosophy of Samadhi with your permission. Where is the woman today?
Welcome. Okay, it looks like it's basically it's a little broken up. That's okay. One rule that I always follow, it's my own rule perhaps, but just like according to Hari Bhakti Vilas, you don't offer broken flowers to the deity. So similarly, nor do you worship the deity in a broken temple. So, but we have to sometimes do the best we can. At the same time, we should keep in mind that if you have a choice between a broken piece of jewelry and a whole piece of jewelry, then it's better to offer the whole piece of jewelry. Usually when I see, even like if there's like in some of the rings where there's like crystals set in, then if there's crystals that have popped out, I don't offer it. That goes in the transcendental trash or whatever. And sometimes I see that and that's another thing that we should be careful about, and that is taking care of the jewelry nicely. After all, it's the paraphernalia of the Lord. So we don't want to, carelessly drop the jewelry in such a way that it breaks stones out and things. That should be avoided. And, a little conscientiously, carefully. Huh?
Actually, Gaura manifest is a devotion time.
Who?
Gaura is probably Chaitanya.
For Krishna. Anangamajari for Radha.
This is in Madhurya Bhasha. Not Balaram,
Yeah.
Anangamajari.
And especially in the Dham, even the land of Dham. So we should be always mindful and considerate.
What do you mean by broken flowers?
Broken flowers means like if the petals are broken off the flower. And just as far as the consciousness, the idea is that Pujari should choose the best flower. You want to offer the best thing to Krishna. So if you're going to do artik or something, or if you're going to decorate the deity with flowers, you don't just throw a bunch of, rose hips on the artik tray. You find it's better to offer one good flower than to offer 100, busted up, useless, half-rotten flowers. If all you have is a half-rotten flower to offer, then within your heart you meditate that this is the nicest, kadamba flower, or the nicest lotus flower, or whatever. That's all you have. But if you have a choice, and you have an array of different flowers, which are, and like also with colors, sometimes there will be some garish colors which are not actually coordinating with the colors in the outfit. So it's kind of like a rasabas. It's not really the one that you want. If that's all you've got, then okay, make do with whatever you got. But if you have a choice, then you should choose flowers that are having the colors and shapes or whatever, which complement the decoration.
During festivals, generally the tendency is to offer heavy garlands with a lot of flowers.
Yes.
Which will cover up the outfits.
Yes.
So is that okay?
That requires the expertise of the pujaari. Like with Krishna, he can be heavier. But anyway,
And
there's...
for Jagannath especially.
Huh?
For Jagannath,
Yeah, anyway.
flowers and all.
But you're going to see the outfit for the rest of the year. On a festival day, Prabhupada is told that flowers are more opulent than gold and diamonds and all varieties of precious gems in Kali Yuga. So just to offer nice opulent flowers to the deities, you can say that that's, aside from our loving devotional sentiments, that would be the success of our deity worship, is to be, having the facility to offer nice opulent flowers. That is our opulence.